Clip this now. Are going invincible. Hello guys and welcome back to another EFL Roundup. I'm sorry to say there'll be no face cam today because it was annoying me to have to use two different microphones and my voice sounded completely different in each one. But I'm sure the stick figure recreation will do for today. Moving on to the football, the Championship didn't play any fixtures over the weekend, which means there's nothing I can really talk about. Aww. But luckily I didn't make a video last week, so there's still some news to update you guys on. As I missed a week of football, I'll do a little roundup on the games I didn't cover, just so that anyone unfamiliar with the leagues doesn't find themselves having skipped 3 games. We all know that the Championship is always changing and completely unpredictable. Well, last time I made a video, Sheffield United were actually top of the league and were being chased down by Norwich in second, whereas now, Sheffield United are top of the league with Norwich just behind in second. Looking further down the league, surprise surprise, Coventry is still rock bottom. Joining them in the relegation zone is Huddersfield and Middlesbrough, who just a few months ago were both up there with the favourites to get promoted. Since then, of course, Huddersfield have completely fallen apart, losing their manager, as well as key players such as Lewis O'Brien and Harry Toffolo. Unsurprisingly then, after a terrible summer, Huddersfield now find themselves with just 2 wins from their opening 9 games. Moving on to Middlesbrough, they lost young star Marcus Tavernier in the summer, and are doing surprisingly poor, just because they're bad, I don't really know. Seriously though, it is surprising how bad Middlesbrough are doing, especially with a manager like Chris Wilder. You know, you'd expect them to be doing a lot better. Moving on to the recap of League 1 and 2, Burton, who'd not won a game this season last time I made a video, have since won back-to-back games going into their clash with Shrewsbury. At the top of League 1, 2 games since my last video, Ipswich and Pompey remarkably still had identical records going into this weekend's fixtures. Sadly though, it was quite literally impossible for this stat to continue, as Pompey had their game postponed and Ipswich played Plymouth away. A moment's silence for our favourite League 1 lovebirds, please. Moving on to League 2, last time I made a video, Leyton Orient were the best team in England. Since then we'd won 2 more games, but I'm not going to talk too much about it now because I did feel bad for cutting Liam out of the last video. So I'm finally going to let him talk about Orient, and for the second time on this channel, please welcome Liam.
Hi guys, it's me, Liam again. Eric said he promised that he wouldn't edit me out the video this time, so I can finally talk about Orient.
I'm so sorry, but that's all we had time for from Liam, as we can now move on to the weekend results, which I'll have on screen now. Clip this now. Leyton Orient are going invincible. Orient have now had the best ever start to a 4th division season. 10 games, 9 wins, 1 draw, 7 clean sheets, 5 points clear of 2nd place and 7 clear of 4th place. We've had 8 separate goal scorers in 10 games and have won more games this season than Man United have scored goals. Another little stat for you in case you thought I was overreacting. Since 2005, only 4 clubs from the top 4 divisions have opened with a record of 9 wins and 1 draw from their opening 10 games. Chelsea in 05-06, Man City in 11-12 and 17-18, Liverpool in 19-20 and Leyton Orient this year. Oh yeah, and so far all of those teams had gone on to win the title in the same season. So if you're a betting man, still do not bet on Leyton Orient. That's a rule you should never really break. Orient are the only side to have not lost a League Cup game, including losing on penalties in extra time, and somehow not won the League Cup. So like I said, I advise against betting anyways, but if you are going to bet, never bet on Orient. Moving on, before I go into any statistics and whatnot, I just want to ask you guys a quick question, because a comment on my last video had me thinking. So this person commented asking if we knew that Gillingham could have been going into administration. And I was wondering, would you rather me include topics like this in these weekly roundups, or would you rather I did a completely separate video on them, where I could go more in depth and talk about the backstory and influences of them? Let me know in the comments and I'll do a poll that's linked in the description, but for today's video I'm just going to talk about results and statistics and stuff. In midweek we saw bottom of the league Rochdale beat a Liverpool under-23 side, featuring former wonder kids Arthur Mello and the one and only Jay Spearing. And they continued this form into Saturday, where they won their first league game of the season against Colchester, putting them up into 23rd and just 1 point away from safety. Hartlepool are now bottom, but have only actually lost 5 games, which is only 2 more than 4th place side Barrow. So they're still all to play for the bottom of the table, which is kind of obvious because we're not even a quarter of the way through the season. Since my last video, top scorer Sam Hoskins has broken the 10 goal mark and has now scored 11, putting him level with Erling Haaland's tally. As I already mentioned Hoskins in the last video, I wanted to look into the second top scorer today, which is Andy Cook of Bradford. Cook started just 7 games and scored 8 goals and is only 4 more away from matching his best ever League 2 campaign. Looking further into Bradford, they find themselves in 7th with ex-Man City manager Mark Hughes in charge. I know to a lot of you that might be a shock, especially because before the Bradford job, Hughes had never managed below the Premier League. Bradford are now in their 4th straight season in League 2, having been in the Premier League just 20 years ago. They're looking to finally get promoted this season, and with their huge fan base, which no doubt will help them later in the season, you'd be silly to bet against them. And now it's time to get back onto our favourite football love story. Ipswich were just not ready to give up on Portsmouth yet, as they chose to lose 2-1 to Plymouth so they could stay in the same amount of points. Sadly though, Plymouth winning put them top of the league, but it's not about where in the league they are, it's just about who they are next to, and Ipswich and Portsmouth are still together. Out of respect for the Ipswich-Portsmouth love affair, I won't be commenting on Plymouth, and instead I'll be looking at Sheffield Wednesday, a club that, to be honest, are too big to be in the third tier. Wednesday are looking to get promoted back to the Championship this season and have what could genuinely be the greatest third division player of all time in Barry Bannon. I've got no clue how he's in League One. To be honest, for years and years he was too good for Wednesday, and that's when they were in the Championship, so I don't know why he's still there. He's got 2 goals and 3 assists from midfield this season, and the energy as well as quality he brings to the team is something Wednesday would simply not be able to replace if he were to leave. Further down the league, Exeter beat Forest Green Rovers 4-0 this weekend, which says a lot given the previous 4 times they'd played each other, it had been a draw, and Forest Green pipped them to the title in the last game last season. It's clear that Forest Green have taken a massive step backwards this summer, losing key players like Kane Wilson and Ebou Adams, as well as losing their manager Rob Edwards to Watford. Just going to pause the video here, because since I recorded this video, Rob Edwards has actually been sacked by Watford, making this entire situation even weirder. It's a very weird decision to sack Rob Edwards by Watford, but it's not massively surprising. The club had only actually lost twice this season and were 10th in the league, but it's Watford. Slaven Bilic has replaced him at Watford, which is a good appointment, but it's just unusual given that, in the summer Rob Edwards was brought in and he was marketed as he's going to be the future of Watford. They're going to build a project of him, and they've given him 10 games. It'll be interesting to see how Watford do. I could see them getting promoted now with Bilic. He'd done it before with West Brom. The only problem is, his last spell in the Championship, in the second half of the season, they fell off massively, and Watford can't afford to do that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to Watford this season. They don't have the head start that West Brom did. It'll be interesting to see what Forest Green do here, because despite being quite terrible in the league, they've been decent in cup competitions. And so I think they're more likely to give their manager a bit more time. But yeah, done with this segment of the video, I'm going to cut back into the normal video. Exeter had become well-known bottlers in League 2, losing 3 playoff finals and bottling the playoffs overall twice in the last 5 seasons they'd played in League 2 before last campaign, where they finally got promoted. Although they did also bottle the title on the final day, getting promoted in true Exeter fashion. Now I'm sure you're all wondering, what happened with Burton? Did they get a result against Shrewsbury? No, obviously not. This is Burton we're talking about. They lost 2-1 to Shrewsbury, conceding a winner to none other than Ryan Bowman. Ryan Bowman. Burton are going down, let's not waste our time. It's basically a 23-team league this season. Speaking of 23, Peterborough beat Port Vale on the weekend. There's no actual relation to the number 23. I just needed a way to bring up Jonson Clarke-Harris, who yet again is League One's top scorer. He bagged 12 goals in the Championship last season, which is sort of that weird number where some people say you're not good enough for the division, and others say you deserve to play for a better team where you might score more goals. Either way, I don't think Peterborough fan cares, because when Clarke-Harris scores, they win. That's literally a fact, by the way. Every time he's scored this season, the Posh have gone on to win the game. Whereas in his recent 6-game Barron spell, they lost 5 of them, only beating Spurs' under-21 side. If Peterborough want to get promoted back to the Championship, they need to find another way of winning games, because relying on one man to score goals simply isn't sustainable. It'll be interesting to see which teams get promoted from League 1 and 2 this season, as right now it's just way too early to call. Luckily though, it's not too early for you guys to click like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and like I said, comment whether I should bring up the topics like administration etc. into these roundups, or if I should just make them separate videos completely. Again, there will be a poll linked in the description as well. Thanks for watching and enjoy your day.